And so Arlecchino is going to be coming in quite a while, guys. Basically a week from now is the moment I released this video. Aren't you excited? Because I am. I mean, we've been waiting for her for quite a long time. We've known about her existence, I think, ever since, you know, the release of that teaser or that trailer from Snezhnaya Signora Funeral that whole universe gave us. And now it's basically the time we get our hands on her. However, before we actually get to pull for her, I know that there are quite a lot of questions that you guys have been asking, and the one that came up the most is actually regarding whether or not Arlecchino is worth pulling, and also whether or not you should be pulling for her if you've got Hu Tao or not. Now obviously at this point in time she hasn't been released just yet. However, based on some of the information we've already got from the 4.6 live streams, we somehow can make an educated discussion regarding this matter, in which we'll dive into that in this video, and hopefully it will be able to help you out somehow and plan your pulls really well so that you can make the most of your Primogems. Now guys, if you've been watching some of my video, you know that I've been recommending you guys loot bar for around 3 times before, and I believe that it worked pretty well for you guys. So if you don't know what loot bar is, they actually help you to top up Primogems with very safe and secure transactions while having lower pricing discount and a very much trustworthy service with over 100,000 orders, with the majority of the reviews being 5 stars. So check out loot bar through the link in my description, guys, if you usually top up, as it is a very good way to get Primogems with lower pricing. So first off, we'll basically look into how Arlecchino actually work. Now assuming you've already went through the 4.6 live stream, you should be able to have an idea of what her E skill and her burst kind of do. Obviously, here in this video, I can't go in depth into the specific scaling of everything that she has because they are not official information yet. But the thing I want to look into to clear everything up, if you guys haven't already understand, is basically how exactly Arlecchino rotation will actually work. So in terms of to simplify everything down, how you play Arlecchino will basically be, first off, you apply her E skill at the start of a rotation, in which she will be applying what's called Blood Debt Directive to the enemies or to the group of enemies that her E skill has hit. And then what you will do afterward is you will be switching to your support character, you know, either Bennett or Yelan or Kazuha, set up their E skill, their burst, because the things with her passive is that it does require Arlecchino a 5-second before she's able to absorb the bond of life that's worth 130%. And so in those times that she has to wait, it's better off you switching to your support and then just cast a burst, and then once she switches back, she can just go ahead and use her charge attack to consume the mark that she has applied onto their enemies, and then to absorb that bond of life to enhance her normal attack by a lot. And then that's where she's going to start doing her normal attack, where she's going to be dealing a ton of damage. What you do with the notes is that every time she does her normal attack, she consumes her bond of life, and her normal attack does scale off of how much bond of life she has. Therefore, the first hit in her rotation will obviously always going to be the highest damaging hit, and then afterward, as time goes on and the more she does her normal attack, that damage number is going to shrink down to lower numbers. Another huge factor when it comes to Arlecchino playstyle also is regarding her burst. Is that Arlecchino is a character that cannot be healed by any other character apart from her burst. Therefore, her burst is the only source of healing that's going to be keeping her alive. And as though whole universe kind of want to make her a bit more of a challenge, they also made her burst so that whenever you use her burst, she's going to be clearing out all of her blood debt directive around her, or in other words, basically all the buff that she has. Therefore, the best case scenario whenever you're using Arlecchino is always you want to burst at the end of her rotation so that she can heal up and then set up everything to start her rotation once again. Now that is when we're in the best case scenario. However, if it is not and you are required to either burst very early on in her rotation or in the middle of that, you're in a huge DPS loss, because that's when either you're not making the most out of Arlecchino or your other support character burst isn't back yet, which is why Arlecchino is going to be a pretty challenging character to play, and you're going to be required to either iframe dodge to make the most out of her DPS, or you're going to be sacrificing a bit of her DPS to have a shoulder, you know, like Zhongli on her team, so that she doesn't get killed or one shot too fast. So those are going to be basically how Arlecchino is going to work. Now we'll start to look into the questions of Arlecchino and Hu Tao, because whether or not you already have Hu Tao on your account, you're considering whether or not to be pulling for Arlecchino, and we'll kind of have a look into a comparison toward that. So regarding Arlecchino and Hu Tao gameplay style, we already know that Arlecchino is more of a character that focuses on, you know, iframing and most of the time doing and spamming her normal attack so that you get the most out of her Bond of Life usage. Either you're going to be playing Arlecchino with a shield, or you're going to be relying on your knowledge of Genshin Impact and dodge perfect timing as much as you can so that she doesn't get hit too much, right? Because some of the enemies, especially in the Abyss, can one-shot you. I'm pretty sure you know, right? The dancing robots in the Abyss is a huge thing, and obviously there are going to be more enemies like that in the future coming, so you're going to have a good knowledge of how to play Arlecchino as well as the enemies if you want to maximize her DPS. And of course, Arlecchino is more or less going to be a character that relies on one rotating, right? Because in earlier starts of her rotation, she's going to be doing a lot more than at the end of her rotation when her Bond of Life basically already ran out. Whereas Hu Tao, we already know she's more or less going to be a charge cancel character, much more easy to play, guys. She can do normal attack spamming, but obviously she's a character that can survive a lot easier because her team with a shield doesn't cost her too much, and obviously she can heal by other character too to sustain herself, unlike Arlecchino, so it's a lot easier to play Hu Tao. And so obviously when looking into Arlecchino and Hu Tao, there are some pros and cons that we can look at. Some of the upside when comparing Arlecchino to Hu Tao would be that I would say overall, Arlecchino is definitely a lot more powerful than Hu Tao if you're able to play her very well without getting killed. That's basically the thing. But it's kind of like a rewarding system that whole universe is doing with her, and I really like that. I don't think there's a character that has something like that ever since. It's going to give us some kind of a breath of a new style to a character that we can enjoy and reward player for those of you who actually put the time and learn how to play her really well, which is a really good thing. And also her team comp is a lot more flexible to build. She basically fits in almost any pyro team comp that you can think of. Obviously there are team comps that is going to do better and those that can do worse, but if you're a free-to-play player and you're lacking in character here and there to build your teams, right, it's a lot easier to fit Arlecchino in many different type of teams rather than Hu Tao, where most of the time she's stuck in vaporized team comps. Therefore, Arlecchino is a lot more flexible for you to play around with. However, there are some downside, and I'm pretty sure you guys already know what the biggest one is actually going to be, right? Obviously, she's a lot harder to play than Hu Tao. So if you're pretty much a casual player and you don't really want to have a character that's too hard to play, obviously Arlecchino is not going to be a fit for you. Most of the time, right, realistically speaking, she will require you to have a shield, right? Even though her best team, I would say, is going to be Arlecchino, Bennett, Yelan, and Kazuya, which is a really high damaging team for Arlecchino. However, many of the time you're going to be switching out Kazuya with Zhongli in order for her survivability, right? Because you're going to be tackling enemies that's going to do huge amount of damage if you don't iframe properly. So even though that's going to be quite a DPS loss for her, you're going to have to sacrifice that in order to make sure you survive. And obviously, I feel that there are content that is almost impossible for you to tackle, like, you know, the wolf, where the shield is basically no use against it, and, you know, having that bleed debuff applied onto you and your HP is constantly decreasing, it's going to be a hell of a time for Arlecchino. So unless you are a very good player for Arlecchino, it's almost impossible to tackle those situations, right? So make sure you are aware of that. Other than that, I would say Arlecchino is going to be a very fun character and a rewarding character for you to play because she does very high number of damage whenever you do things correctly for her. And so that begs us to one of the most important questions of this video, is that when should you pull for Arlecchino if you already have Hu Tao? And I would say there are a few considerations. Is that first of all, if you do enjoy and love Arlecchino, you have the spare gems to go for, guys, and yes, just go ahead and pull for Arlecchino. Genshin Impact is pretty much an easy game enough, so I think Hoyoverse is kind of like boosting up the challenge by giving us Arlecchino, right? They're not giving us some kind of end game to make it more challenging. They just instead create a more challenging character for you guys to play and study. Secondly, is that if you're feeling that you're lacking in another DPS in the Abyss, right? Because both Arlecchino and Hu Tao technically have different teams, right? Since Arlecchino team comps is just so versatile, you can just build your usual Hu Tao vaporized team. And especially, right, guys, Hu Tao is a character that works perfectly with Furina, so you can still have Furina on Hu Tao team, whereas Furina cannot be used on Arlecchino team very hard, right? So you can still have Arlecchino on a separate vaporized teams and they will still do very well in the Abyss. I don't think there are any things that actually, you know, resist vaporized team in the Abyss, right? This team is still one of the best team that we have in the Abyss, so you can still technically have two vaporized team to run and then clear the abyss very well that way. The thing is that if you're planning to invest Arlecchino a lot in the future, she's going to be a lot more powerful than Hu Tao, because Arlecchino has a lot more powerful constellations than Hu Tao. Hu Tao has some of the worst constellations you can find in the game. So if you're someone who really love Arlecchino and is planning to invest quite a lot into her in the future, she's definitely a worthwhile character for you to pull, considering she is predicted to be some of the best character in the game right now. It's going to be quite a worth it investment for you to go for. And then finally, obviously, is that if you're somebody who loves to have a challenge, right? You're finding out that you don't really have anything else to do at the end of Genshin Impact. Arlecchino is going to be a perfect character to spend dozens of hours into that to, you know, study the enemies, iframing everything so that you can make the most use out of her. Regarding Hu Tao, she's going to be a character if you want to have your life a lot easier, right? So if you already have and invested a lot into Hu Tao, you can just stick to her. If you're pretty much a casual player and you don't really want to like waste a lot of your times in your life to actually study and have a harder character for you to play around with. Basically, that's the thing. Now, I've also seen a lot of questions regarding whether or not C1 Hu Tao is better than C0 Arlecchino, because I know a lot of you guys have invested quite a lot into your Hu Tao and you have a C1 Hu Tao with Staff of Homa. And obviously, I would say, guys, that C1 Hu Tao is just so still powerful, because you're able to do so many charge attack that C1 Hu Tao still will out damage C0 Arlecchino. So generally speaking, just save your Primogems and then wait for better character to be returning, you know, like Frina, or, you know, future character that's going to be coming. Who knows, you know, Cloran or Citrine is going to be coming in the future. Save your Primogems by then and then pull for a newer character for you to play around with, because C1 Hu Tao is just a very good character already and you're going to be content with Hu Tao for a longer time. And then also another very big question that I've seen a lot of you guys has been asking is, C1 or R1 Arlecchino is going to be better for you to invest in right now? I would say obviously if you can get both, that's going to be a very good thing. It's just kind of like, you know, you guys investing into a C1 R1 Novelette. It's kind of like similar like that, because both is a very good thing for her. However, here's the thing, is that Arlecchino's signature weapon is rather just okay. Now obviously it's rather still a decent buff onto her. However, the thing is that with Poem character, which is having so many good 5-star Poem out there, that you can actually substitute her signature and just go ahead and use Homa or, you know, Jade Spear onto Arlecchino, and that's still going to be a very good thing for you. And then rather that, just go ahead and pull for her C1, because her C1 right now, if it's not changed, it is one of the best constellation and a very good stopping point for her if you just want to invest into Arlecchino, because, you know, an increase of 100% Mask of Red Death is a pretty big deal. Furthermore, with the resistance to interruption to Arlecchino, that's going to be very good for you as well, right? Stopping you from not getting interrupted and easier for you to get that iframe dodge here on out. C1 is just going to be giving you a lot of value for Arlecchino. So right at this patch, guys, I would rather you guys pull for a C1 Arlecchino, and then if you already have Staff of Homa, just give that onto her, or, you know, good luck getting the Jade Spear. And then if you still like it, whenever she's on her rerun, you can try to get her signature, which is going to be more of a worthwhile investment in my opinion, right? So guys, I think that's everything I have to say regarding Arlecchino at this point in time. Obviously she's not released, so everything here is just my own prediction and speculations, right? Obviously we're going to do a lot more testing whenever she drops next week. So guys, if you're new to the channel, you're not subscribed yet, be sure to do so, because I'll be having a lot of stream regarding Arlecchino, you know, helping you guys pull, using a bit of my streamer luck so that I can pull and help you guys out with Arlecchino pulling that way. There's going to be a lot of fun discussion regarding her as well. So I hope the video have helped you guys out. If you guys have any question, guys, leave it down in the comment section and I will get to you right there. I really appreciate you guys staying with me to this part of the video, guys, and with that, I wish you a super day and I'll catch you on my next video.